Hi, good evening. A very warm welcome to everyone in the TOC community joining us today on this Independence Day evening for a very special Independence Day webinar with Professor Anand Prakash Mishra, who is the Professor of Practice and Associate Dean, Jindal Global Law School, and Director of Law Admissions at OP Jindal Global University. When we were thinking of Independence Day, we wanted to mark this day with a very special speaker. And I was in touch with Professor Mishra, ever since the inception of TOC. And he has been a strong advocate and always supporting us in building this community. The community that you see today was just a WhatsApp group when we started it. And I still remember Professor Anand Prakash Mishra was one of the first members that I added to that WhatsApp group. And when we met, he told me, amazing work, Ankur. Please go ahead and keep doing it. I love what you're doing. And when stalwarts like him encourage you, you know you are on the right path. So I always wanted him to come and speak at TOC. It was just the moment that was I was waiting for, which is the right moment for Sir to be invited to this forum. I'm so happy that this Independence Day, when I was thinking of a speaker, I could think of no other person than Professor Anand Prakash Mishra. I'm so grateful that he accepted our invite. For those of us who know Professor Anand Prakash Mishra, and I have had the honor of knowing him since 2016, I still remember when I was working with Ashoka University, I went to OP Jindal Global University for a campus tour, and I met him in his office. And I still remember the conversation I had. I asked him one question. I said, Sir, what is the vision of Jindal Global Law School? Why are you doing what you do? And that line stuck with me. You know what line he spoke to me? He said, we are building this law school for the nation. Ankur, whatever we are doing, Professor Dr. C. Rajkumar, I am doing, it is for the country. And I have met hundreds of university professionals, admissions and outreach. Nobody had given me that answer till that day. And it has stuck with me. The thought process, the vision of building something which is large and giving it back to the country. And post that 2018, I started working with Jindal. I had the honor of again working with Sir, not very closely because he was heading the law school. I was heading the liberal arts school and the outreach. But we struck a chord, and I always respected him. He always encouraged me to do the best for the university and the institution. And I'm so grateful to have his guidance and mentorship with me as we build TOC forward. I also have in me, I think Harsh is here. And since Harsh has been, we discussed Professor Mishra a couple of times when I met him one to one, and he had really high things to say about Professor Mishra. So, and I'm so happy that he could make it today. So I would love Harshvardhan Tiwari ji, who is the director of law school at GD Goenka University in Gurugram. I think it's best that you also, Harsh, speak a few words because you have worked closely with Professor Mishra in the law school, Jindal Global Law School. So your association with Professor Mishra and how will you introduce this amazing personality?
Thank you so much, Ankur, and good evening, sir. And I would introduce him in couple of lines. They speak a lot about him. He has inspired generations like mine, just like Sachin Tendulkar. He is absolutely cool as MS Dhoni. Yes. And in terms of memory, I can say he's Micros if you have ever watched Suits. Yes. In terms of humility, you would never find, you will find only one comparison, and that will be Atal Bihari Vajpayee. In terms of hardworking and working 24/7 to what is the real cost, he stands none other than to, if I may say, our Prime Minister, Modi ji. And above all, he's a great human being. He's a person I personally have been mentored by him, and he has given almost everything while teaching, while mentoring, while telling everything about. And the person, and in last world, which I will say, he's just like a coach, Rahul Dravid. Yes. So he looks into the minute details. He takes up mentees. He tries to teach them. He tries to spend as much time as possible. And I think without his contribution, a lot of people who are working in outreach admissions be at that stage at what they are. To me, he's a mentor. To me, he's somebody who I look up to. And to everybody else who is at my generation level, it is just like we all in terms of memory, he's Micros, but for all of us, he is Harvey Specter, and some of us think ourselves to be Micros. So in all these sense, I say that this is a brilliant place. And this is a brilliant day, the Independence Day. We have heard our Prime Minister for 90 minutes in the morning. And what absolute delight to hear Professor Anand Prakash Mishra this evening. And this will be a perfect end to the Independence Day. And now would not waste much more and just want to hear him say something.
So,
Thank you, Harsh, for that lovely introduction. Professor Anand, welcome to the
yes. I mean,
event, sir.
both of you were so generous and, to some extent, I will say, I mean, it's too much. I'm also like all of you, and exactly like each one of you who have joined here as an admissions outreach professional, apart from being a lawyer and a law professor who has taught courses here and in the past in other places as well. For the last 12 years, I'm at Jindal Global Law School. And first and foremost, I'm really delighted about this community, this TOC, and this initiative of Ankur and his other co-founder. When I first came to know about it, the first thing which actually came to my mind is never ever the outreach professionals try to collaborate and learn from each other, or try to join together in one group, in one community. Rather, they worked only for their own organizations, and they were mostly, I will say, competitors and not friends and supporters and inspiring and helping each others. So this community proved that despite people are working for different organizations, different universities, different kind of setups, or even various schools and colleges and even foreign universities, but they all can combine together and become one community, can help each other, can learn from each other. And that's how I see TOC as a unique institution and unique organization in Indian context. I actually never came across this kind of group, this kind of community in the past. Today's topic is very interesting. Law education, its future, and particularly the opportunities as well as challenges. So I want to keep this session interactive, and I would like to answer the questions of every member of this small group. And I'm really thankful that you all have found time on a holiday on I think 15th August. And this is actually the most important day of our nation. This is the 77th Independence Day. And when it comes to legal education, I can tell you in 1947, we did not have a single law school in the sense what law schools and law departments and legal education is as of now today. It was a highly, I will say, neglected as well as an apprentice-based legal education system where very little education was imparted in colleges. And apart from the say half dozen institutions in the country, there was no legal education available elsewhere. So the Government Law College in Mumbai, the Law College in Chennai, what was called Government Law College, GLC Chennai in those times, and of course the law department in Calcutta University and Delhi University, and there was other two law departments in Allahabad and Patna, and probably at Banaras Hindu University and maybe a few more. So it was very, very few institutions which imparted legal education in some form or other. And law degree used to be of 2 years duration. And the remaining education happened in the courts, where the senior lawyers used to teach the junior lawyers in the court and the court craft and everything. And legal education was nobody's priority. So when in those times, higher education institutions in India, there were some remarkable universities, and some of universities had produced Nobel laureates, including University of Calcutta and University of Madras. And some of the, Nobel laureates were actually back to India and even teaching, but none of them, none of the universities had any inclination to do anything serious about law and legal education. So this situation continued even after independence. So for the first 20 years after independence, I will say till the 60s, legal education was limited to these central universities and government law colleges. And it was only in mid-60s when University of Delhi for the first time set up a committee led by then Supreme Court Judge, Justice Gajendra Gadkar. It's a very famous committee called Gajendra Gadkar Committee Report, which he produced. And in those times, the vice chancellors used to, in a way, employ the Supreme Court judges to help them reform legal education, to help them, make the situation of the law departments, the legal studies better in the university. And in 1966-67, for the first time, a 3-year LLB program was started in India at Delhi University. And it was a semester-wise program. So semester system was also introduced. And I will say it was a landmark year, that particular decade for legal education, when University of Delhi introduced a 3-year, 6-semester LLB program. And it also followed the Harvard Law School case law method of study, case law method of teaching, and borrowed heavily from what Harvard Law School does while teaching law, not through the statutes or not through the legal provisions, but through case laws, through decided judgments of the Supreme Court. And University of Delhi followed the same thing. And that was a remarkable development. Needless to say, the second phase of, I will say, experiment as well as success in legal education came with National Law School of India, University, Bangalore, in the year 1987, when for the first time, 5-year law program was introduced. And it was a professor from Delhi University, Professor Menon from Campus Law Center, who decided to approach the Bar Council of India as well as the government of Karnataka, led by a very able chief minister as well as a lawyer, who encouraged and got the approval done for setting up India's first national law school in Bangalore. For next 20-30 years, India witnessed growth of law schools, and newer law schools were started. But it took 11 years after MLS Bangalore to set up the second national law school, because it was still being seen as an experiment, and people were skeptical about the success of this experiment. So it took another 11 years. So second national law school, which came up in form of NLIU Bhopal and Nalsar Hyderabad almost together in 97-98. And then NUJS Kolkata was set up in the year 2000. And that's how the older NLUs came up in existence. And legal education was open not just after undergraduate degree, what it used to be in Delhi University and all other institutions in the past, but even after class 12. And the idea of catching them young and introducing, very young student to a study of law, the way they studied medicine or engineering or other disciplines, that actually was another important step in the field of legal education. Now I will come to directly 2009 when Jindal Global Law School was started by Professor Dr. C. Rajkumar. And this was another landmark development. And if you look at legal education evolution in our country, for the first time, the idea of a global law school or the idea of a law school which can compete internationally and which can actually impart legal education on par with what is offered in, say, Columbia or Harvard or Cambridge or Oxford, through the alumni, through the graduates of those institutions, and through the professors who are brought from those places, as well as the curriculum and courses designed in a comparative and international manner. That was another experiment. And that also started with a lot of skepticism. And thankfully, today, when we are in 2023, talking about the future of law schools, the future of legal education, I'm very happy to tell you that the future of law schools, the future of law education is extremely bright, and law as a profession and legal education as an higher education option, as an higher education pathway, will always remain one of the most prestigious, one of the most critical, and one of the most sought after in our country, because with the passage of time, more development happens in the country. Because even in 1947, when we started, there were established law schools like the Oxford Law Faculty and Cambridge Law Faculty, were equally prestigious what they are today. There is no change. The Harvard Law School and Yale Law School and Columbia and many other institutions, they were as prestigious in 1947 as they are in 2023. So the only difference is now we have institutions in India who for the first time are going to compete with them and going to be on par with the finest in the world. So first and foremost, if I look at the future of law education, the first thing which comes to my mind is internationalization. And internationalization of legal education and law school is one thing, but more importantly, internationalization of legal profession, which is happening now, and which is going to happen in a bigger way in, say, next few decades. And by internationalization, I mean at Jindal Global Law School, I used to see a lot of our students who are now graduating from Jindal and actually moving to universities around the world. And it's not limited to the US and UK and Canada. It even covers Australia and Singapore and New Zealand and Germany and almost entire, Europe. And even I find some of them exploring those countries which were nowhere on the mind of, I will say, law aspirants in our country ever. So internationalization is the first and foremost, I will say, a thing which is going to happen in the legal profession. And this includes a lot of Indian law graduates who are being trained, being taught in Indian law schools. They are going to become global workforce. They are going to become lawyers in more than one jurisdiction. They are going to work, they study in India, but they are going to study abroad. They are going to be trained in more than, say, one or two or even three countries. I have seen our graduates at Jindal who have membership of the bar of not just India, but at least 100 plus of them who have qualified New York bar and California bar exam in last 5 years. So every year when New York bar exam results come, I used to see some 1 dozen of Jindal graduates, whoever based in New York or pursuing an LLM, they all qualified. The same thing with California bar. The same thing happening in Canada, where some 25 or 30 of our graduates are now members of the Ontario bar. The same thing is happening in UK, where maybe more than 50 or 60 of our graduates are working as lawyers in the UK. But more strangely, I found our graduates who are working as lawyers in Germany, in Japan. I mean, interestingly, one student I found who is working in a Japanese law firm. There are students who are in China. One of our early graduates who went on a full scholarship to Zhejiang University in China for an LLM actually pursued a PhD. Now, there are graduates who have explored other countries as well. Many of them are in the UAE, in Middle East countries. And for the first time, this is happening in legal profession, that Indian law graduates are aspiring legal careers internationally. So that is the first, I will say, the future of law school, the future of legal profession is internationalization. You have to study law in an international and comparative perspective, and you have to aspire to become an international lawyer if you want to actually become successful in the legal field. And that is something which is last 20 years. And even at national law schools, I could see a lot of graduates from NLS Bangalore and Nalsar and NLU Delhi, the leading national law schools, are also building their careers internationally. And actually, they are now international lawyers in their own way. Even I think many of members of this community must have taken note of Bar Council of India allowing foreign law firms to set up offices in India. For the first time in the history of Indian legal profession, any non-Indian citizen is being allowed to practice law in whatever way the Bar Council has allowed. This is going to further, I will say, increase in the future, and more lawyers from one jurisdiction are going to move to other jurisdiction. And this multi-jurisdictional legal practice, multi-jurisdictional legal profession is going to emerge out of this. Because still India is very, very small. If I look at the international legal services market, and the size of the market, many people estimate it around $1,000 billion in terms of total revenue, total size of the legal services market in the world. And you'll be surprised to know the Indian contribution or Indian share is not even $2 billion out of that $1,000 billion. Almost 50% of the international legal services market is captured by the United States. Another 25% by the UK and European countries. And in remaining 25%, China has a major share, and India is just not even 1% of that. So this is what I will say the future is. But when you ask about the challenges and opportunities, Ankur, because your topic includes challenges, the major challenge in India is the mediocrity of law schools. India has 1,700 law colleges, but it's difficult to find even 17 of them, even 1% of them, which could be on par with the international law schools. Out of 1,700, we cannot find 17. That is the situation. So majority of law schools focus only on the domestic law and domestic practice. They are not capable to offer the education and training which is needed to produce international lawyers, which is needed to develop young people to aspire international legal careers and international legal profession. So we need to actually work on in our legal education front to be part of this very, very competitive international legal practice, and to be a part of or to have a good share of international legal markets. So when I see some of our graduates getting into, say, Latham Watkins or Baker McKenzie or White and Case, actually, that's not a general rule. That's an exception. And many other firms in New York or London or other big cities, that has to be met like a rule, that a lot of our graduates are aspiring and joining those kind of places, howsoever competitive it is. But we have to prepare our graduates for that. So that is the first and foremost point I wanted to make. The second thing I wanted to tell about the use of technology, which is going to be a substantial, I will say the most important factor in future of legal profession and legal education. Technology was never that important in the past, but you can see the way artificial intelligence and machine learning and robotics and all this impacting almost every walk of life, more so the legal profession as well. So majority of the law firms doing all those contract reviews and a lot of work which could be, which was earlier done by lawyers, is going to shift to artificial intelligence enabled systems. And that is another development which is going to happen. Use of technology in law, and that is why technology is going to play an important role. Our courts have to be, in a way, tech-enabled. The way our Chief Justice is promoting technology in legal profession. Recently, I heard he asked, I think, some of the senior advocates to not come with any papers, but with their iPads and everything in soft copies. And in some way, it's an hint that the future is going to be paperless. The future is going to be technology-driven in courts. And we actually witnessed this when there was a COVID situation for 2 years, more than 2 years. The virtual court system emerged, and almost all the proceedings. Today, you can watch the Supreme Court proceedings and most of the High Court proceedings online. Even any common citizen can watch the entire proceedings without paying any fee, without any hindrance. And it's all justice being accessible, and in a way, I will say, it could be seen by anyone what is happening in the courtroom. This was not there earlier. So technology is going to play the most important role in the future. The third thing which I wanted to say is law will not just remain law for the purpose of practice or judiciary or legal profession. Law as a stream of studies, law as an education, higher education option, is the new liberal arts. So in old times, the way people studied a BA degree, if you passed your class 12 and you don't know what to do a BA. BA became like a first degree. Today, if I look at all the available undergraduate options in the country, a law degree, particularly a 5-year law program after class 12, or the way we have introduced even BA Legal Studies program at Jindal Global Law School, a BA law program, they are going to be like a new liberal arts degree. You get armed with good legal knowledge. You get armed with good exposure to law. And then you do whatever you want. You are not just trained to become a lawyer or a judge, but you are also trained to become a good negotiator, a good businessman, a good entrepreneur, a good novelist, a good author, a good researcher. You can run a think tank, you can set up or be part of a non-governmental organization, intergovernmental organization. and you are actually trained and taught in ways that you are almost suitable to do anything out in this world, maybe except becoming a doctor or a dental surgeon or something which requires that kind of knowledge. You can be part of the public service, the civil service, or even the government in various capacities, or even you can become a full-time politician. But if you are armed with a law degree, if you are armed with the legal education, you are always in a superior place vis-a-vis others, because the legal education today empowers students in that way. It uh, improves your analytical abilities, your even public speaking skills, your writing and research abilities. In various ways, it prepares you for life. So law is the new liberal arts, in my view. And believe it or not, that's the reason why, if I look at the number of students aspiring to study law, in the year 2005, it was just 5,000 students who used to take National Law School Bangalore entrance exam. Only 5,000 students. And today, more than 50,000 students aspire to study law by taking the CLAT exam and many other exams. Actually, the numbers reached even up to 80,000 in one particular year, when number of applications, if I look at. So that means 80,000 students from, say, 5,000 who aspired to study at India's #1 law school. So that's a marked development. Even if I look at the first CLAT, there were less than 10,000 takers in 2008. And so that's another major development which has happened. Law is now being seen as one of the most valuable first degree to attain. And it's like a new BA, the new liberal arts program in the country. And students are actually exploring various other things other than legal practice and judiciary, what it used to be. The next thing I will say, before I invite questions, I just want to conclude two more points. So in legal profession, the future of law, why I said it's extremely bright, because apart from courtrooms in the government, in judiciary, as well as in regulatory bodies, law is going to take the lead. It has already taken the lead in some way. And the regulation is going to become critical for functioning of corporate and business world. So you might see today we have highly empowered institutions like Securities Exchange Board of India, the SEBI, or Insurance Regulatory Development Authority, the IRDA, or the Competition Commission of India, the CCI. And then there are several other regulators, several new tribunals which are coming up. And almost in every field, you will find there are specialized tribunals, specialized agencies, specialized bodies which require legal experts coming up. So if you look at even, hardcore government functions, like in defense, you will find armed forces tribunals. In service matters, you look at the central administrative tribunals. For income tax and others, there are income tax tribunals. There are exclusive tribunals for custom, excise, for other matters, for GST and all. So the legal profession will not just be limited to the court system, but it's going to be with the regulators in a big way. And in courts as well, we have major challenge, the kind of pendency we have in our courts. We have 5 crore cases pending. Earlier it was 3.5 crore. After the COVID, it has crossed 5 crores. And we have hardly 20,000 judicial officers in our country. So at one point of time, we have to double the size of our judiciary to at least marginally reduce the pendency in the courts. And that means adding another 20,000 people to the judicial workforce And all these young LLB graduates, BA LLB, BB LLB graduates are going to get that opportunity to join the government, to join the judiciary as judges and judicial officers. So this is the fourth, I will say, important area where law has a bright future. And the last, I will say, is the way lawyers are becoming important in academia and research. I mean, academic field has never been very, very lucrative in our country, unfortunately. But if I look at the way Jindal Global Law School and our university has attracted young people to teach and research and be part of higher education ecosystem, we have more than 550 faculty members full-time in the law school now. And many of them are young people, young graduates of Jindal Global Law School as well. They have graduated from law schools around the country. Almost every national law school graduate is serving in our faculty. And with some law schools, there are more than a dozen of them. But if you look at their profiles, they all went to universities like Oxford or Cambridge or King's College London or LSE, or the universities in the US like Columbia or NYU or other places, and came back and chose academia and research as their lifelong careers. The same thing will happen in think tanks, and even the government is going to hire them for their services in various departments. Government is also setting up a lot of think tanks, a lot of projects where these experts are needed to help the government. And many ministries of the government have set up think tanks. Ministry of Commerce think tank, there is one. You can see international trade law. There is a center which is also run by one of our former faculty members. So this is going to increase in the future. So academia and research will also thrive in the coming years. And therefore, I believe the future of law education is extremely bright. The only, I will say, challenge to it, what I see is we have to end this mediocrity. We have to end this culture of approvals of a large number of colleges. I had written an article many years back where I found some 300 law colleges were approved by 3 universities in Western UP, namely Agra, Meerut, and Kanpur. These 3 universities had approved 300 law colleges. And I doubt either of these 3 universities have a robust law department of their own, where at least some 10 professors, some 20 associate professors, and another 30 assistant professors, some 50 faculty members are serving in the law faculty or law department. None of them. But it's easy to approve colleges and give degrees. And these 300 colleges used to offer 100,000 seats, 1 lakh seats in LLB and BA LLB and BB LLB every year. And that you can find this mushrooming of law colleges all over. And many of them do not require you to attend classes. Many of them do not have law libraries. Many of them do not have even principals or professors. There is some courtroom lawyer comes and teaches for a few hours. So this mediocrity needs to be eliminated if we want a robust legal education and legal profession system in our country. So the major challenge before us is how to, in a way, even I will go to the extent of shutting down these institutions which are running in the name of law colleges, where no legal education is imparted, but students are receiving LLB degrees and coming to courts and becoming members of the bar. And this thing, I think, requires a serious attention of the regulators as well as the government, as well as those universities, particularly the state universities, who are in this approval business. and who have set up some 100 this affiliated college system. This has to go. This has to go, or this has to be substantially reduced and regulated so that the standards are maintained. And only then we can I completely agree with the Supreme Court. Few years, sometime back, they had observed and they had instructed Bar Council of India to inspect every law college, and actually Madras High Court once even instructed them to close down all the law colleges which are not fulfilling the standards of legal education and not running as per the legal education rules. So a lot of work need to be done on the part of our regulators and the government and the universities, the public universities which have set up this affiliation system. And if you are able to do this, I think the new breed of law schools which are coming up in both the National Law University system as well as the private university systems, they will take care of, producing world-class lawyers and legal professionals who are going to take up challenges not just in our own country, but even internationally. So I'll be open to questions, and I can see some of the questions are available in the chat box. But over to you, Ankur.
Thank you so much, Professor, for that wonderful, insightful 30-minute talk. I mean, you covered the entire landscape of the law education, the history. I have written in the WhatsApp group also the past, present, and future of the law education in our country. Thank you so much for doing that. I mean, I didn't know that for 1947 we didn't have any law schools, and it took us till 69 to come up with the first national law university. And then when you talk about the number of CLAT takers only being about 5,000 plus to over a decade back to now 50,000 plus students aspiring to study law. And I think you said it aptly when you said liberal law education is the new liberal arts education in the country. And there are many of us, I can see there are a few of our career counselors friends also here, and many of us from university admissions and outreach when we go to schools. I mean, if I go back 10 years, I mean, not many students aspired to study law. It was always engineering, medicine, and then few will say CA and business and BCom. But law was never in the horizon. If I go back 20 years, 25 years, when I was in school, law was never a choice for us. I mean, so two questions here. And before I open up it to the larger audience, and I want to wear my career counseling hat here. Who is the right fit for a law program? What kind of students is university like OP Jindal Global University, Jindal Global Law School is looking for? What are the qualities that make for a good law student? And second, you talk about the missing aspect of internationalization at our law schools. I mean, I can vouch for it. There can be two eras in the law education in our country: pre-Jindal and then post-Jindal. Now we are seeing, after the success of Jindal Global Law School, a lot of law schools trying to emulate what Jindal Global Law School is trying to do. But yes, as you said, mediocrity runs rampant. What are the things that make Jindal Global Law School the most international global law school? I think these are the two questions from my side, and then we'll open it up for the audience to ask their questions.
So great questions, Ankur. Thank you. So the first thing, the kind of students who should study law, I believe there is no barrier to join the study of law. Unless you are challenged in language or logic. These are two skills which I believe any student who is good in languages, and particularly English language, because that is the language of law, and logic and reasoning, if your logical and reasoning abilities are good, whether you are a very good public speaker or not, whether you want to debate or argue or not. In legal field, there are a lot of work which are done in, in offices, and through your skills in writing and research, a lot of people think only those who speak well or those who are public speakers should become lawyers. But what is needed is, if you have a good understanding, a good interest in languages, in writing and reading and reflecting, and I will say to some extent even original writing. And if you have that reasoning ability, logical ability, you should certainly consider law. And it's a stream neutral, whether you have studied sciences or commerce or humanities, whatever. I think it's perfect to go ahead with a law degree. The other thing I would like to say is students who are not very much inclined to study. There are various, I mean, someone who is very keen about sports or about, taking education in an easy way, they should not actually come to law. Law requires study. Law requires hard work. It's a profession of hard work. So education also is a lot of hard work. You have to be a good reader. You have to be a good writer. You have to write. You have to read. You have to research. There is no, escape to it. So you have to be genuinely a good student who wants to learn. And I think if this basic minimum requirement is fulfilled, then you should take the CLAT and LSAT and, all the CUET, all these entrance exams, and go ahead with studying law.
Amazing.
Second question,
Amazing.
yeah. The Jindal question, how Jindal Global Law School, in a very short span of time, attained its position, not just nationally, but internationally. I mean, we were the first law school to be ranked internationally, along with National Law School Bangalore. And even today, in 2023, these are the only two law schools from India which find any mention in international rankings and international list of law schools. So the most important factor is the law school's decision to invest in the faculty. Faculty is the main, I will say, it's not the wonderful campus, the buildings, the infrastructure, the facilities, the good food and everything. The investment in faculty, what I have seen many private universities, many institutions, they will invest in buildings, in campuses, they will invest in putting large newspaper ads, a full page ad in the Times of India or Hindustan Times or Education Times. They will invest in hoardings and doing all those stuff to attract students and all those things. But they will not invest in faculty members. They will not try to recruit high quality faculty members and retain them by providing good service conditions. The tragedy of even private higher education sector in our country is it never invests in the faculty. It invests in every other thing, but not the faculty. Jindal did absolutely opposite. You will rarely find any advertisement of our university anywhere in the newspapers or elsewhere. But the faculty members are all, you won't believe, I mean, Ankur is aware, but for this audience, our Vice Chancellor and the team travels to Boston and New York every year, as well as in London and University of Oxford campus to recruit faculty members. Those who are pursuing PhD in Oxford and Cambridge, those who are pursuing, completed their masters, those who are interested in coming back and teaching, that kind of, I will say, investment is done in recruiting faculty members from world's top institutions. So faculty is the key reason what made Jindal Global Law School what it is today. And certainly it's just the beginning. We are only 14-year-old, and it's 30th September 2009. The law school has started and the university has started. So it may be probably the youngest law school ever in the history of legal and higher education to break into top 100 law schools of the world. If you look at the top 100 law school list, most of them are 100, 200, 300, or even 800-year-old institutions. We are just 13-year-old institutions. When we were 10-year-old, we broke into the global rankings. And in the year 2020 rankings, we were put in 101 to 150 category for the first time. And NLS Bangalore was 151 to 200 category. And now we have broken into top 100 for last 3 years consecutively. So I think that's a remarkable development. And it's, I mean, the next goal I find for the next 5 years or so is to get into top 50 law schools in the world, and also to attract a lot of students from international, markets, from the foreign countries to study at Jindal Global Law School.
Amazing. And you say we're just starting out, and you're already, I mean, one of the messages in the chat, it's just 14 years, you have done such phenomenal growth. I mean, only we all can assume that the future is going to be more bright and successful for Jindal, and the university, the law school is going to bring more laurel for the country. I mean, now Jindal is also an institution of eminence. I mean, which is given to only 10 private universities in the country, and amazing growth. I was there. I have the honor of working with Professor Anand Mishra and Professor Dr. C. Rajkumar, the founding vice chancellor. When he says the team travels every year to recruit faculty, I know for a fact, I mean, the kind of importance that the university gives to hiring the brightest of the brightest minds and make them come to India. I mean, imagine getting a guy from Boston or New York to rural Sonipat. And Professor Raj used to still, when I talk to him, I've always been amazed by his vision of bringing people from all over the world to Sonipat of all places. When us in Delhi NCR also say Sonipat mein kaun jayega, but you go there once and you see the entire world is there in that campus. So amazing, sir. Thank you so much for sharing that. I will now open the floor to questions. I know there were questions in the chat box that people wanted to ask. Puneet, you were the first ones to type in your questions. Puneet, you are here. You can ask your question live because it's a small cohort that we are talking to.
Thank you so much, Ankur.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Professor Sir. We have heard a lot about OP Jindal and the university from Ankur. He's been talking a lot. He's worked. He's enjoyed working there. So it's really a pleasure to hear you. My question, anyways, was on data protection law, but Harsh has already given a small comment on that, so that is okay with me, sir. Just a simple thank you. Thank you. It was really nice to hear from you. Completely about the law, as Ankur said, past and future, and the huge gap, and about NSU Bangalore also. Really interesting. We'll get in touch with you, sir. We'll send you emails and then we'll get in touch. Thank you so much for today, sir.
Thank you, Puneet. I would like to tell you this data protection thing is in news because the new legislation came in the parliament. But if you look at Jindal, I remember the first conference we did in 2012 or 13, and there was a Qualcomm-funded project on campus. It was almost $1 million project, which our faculty members won from the Qualcomm Corporation. And our competitors were law schools from Singapore and Hong Kong and China and other places. It was a project completely dedicated to what we call, it was called JIRICO, Jindal Initiative for Research in Innovation and Competition Law. And that included a lot of, I will say, areas of data privacy and data protection. And our professors worked, I think a lot of work has been done in our research center since then. There has been some contribution of JGLS as well in this new legislation. I think within coming month, there is a major international conference going on to happen at Jindal on this theme. So one of the professors is working on that. It's available in the public domain. So a lot of international scholars are going to visit Sonipat for this. And I think our curriculum and everything always includes all these newer areas of law. So that is something we cover in our education, which is important in the law school. But research is done through research centers. And I think last few years, some of our research centers have even found mention in some Supreme Court judgments, some of our professors and researchers. So that's the way the future of law education is. We have to empower our researchers and research centers. And it's not just data protection, but even the new, criminal laws which are being enacted, because law is a dynamic field. Every law will need amendment, every law will need improvement, every law will need reform. And that will come through the research which happens in the law schools, apart from what happens in the courts and elsewhere. So a robust research culture always helps a student learn these newer areas of law. So I can assure from our, because having a large faculty also helps. If you look at JGLS, you'll find at least 12 people who are having expert knowledge in this privacy and data protection and related areas of law. And they are all researching and writing, publishing, participating in projects, in international conferences. So the benefit always flows to the student. Whatever a researcher or a professor does, ultimately it goes to the student, and students become part of it. So that's how we, run the law school. In almost every major area of law, there is a dedicated research center. So students who are interested in data protection and privacy, they can join the professors who are actually part of the research center in the law school.
Amazing.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. I hope that answers your question, Puneet. Next is Meenakshi. Meenakshi, you had a couple of questions for sir. You can ask them live. Okay, I don't think Meenakshi is going to ask them live. I'll ask them for you. She has mentioned it in the chat box. Internationalization of particularly law education is very complex and seems difficult to achieve. The future of law is equally interesting. Many questions. Will tech play a role in law school or its practice? How does law education update to include AI, IP, and many other recent cross-border developments? I think AI is on everybody's mind, Professor. So if you can address that, the impact of AI on law education.
So, I'm not an expert in this field, but I can tell you, technology playing, the first question which Meenakshi had asked, technology playing a role in law school or courts, I can tell you, technology is going to be the enabler. I mean, because this COVID has taught us the way virtual court, the idea of virtual court before 2020, nobody could have imagined that there could be real arguments and even, judgments through the virtual hearings. And in India, millions of hearings happened through the virtual court system. And actually, every high court and even district court level, a virtual court system was introduced by the government. So technology is going to play an important role in both education as well as practice. And therefore, the lawyers, the future lawyers, have to be, tech friendly, tech savvy, and even sometime I will say tech lovers. Those who are averse to technology are going to face challenges in the courtroom. Like our senior lawyers, a lot of senior people in the courts are facing now, because you can see that when they are part of a virtual court proceedings, or when they are required to, use technology, particularly during the COVID times. So all the young generation handled COVID better than the older one because they were not used to it. The second thing I will say, be it questions relating to artificial intelligence or machine learning, robotics, and those newer technologies, in law schools, there are always scholars who are experts in that field, who have done their, a study and research, and who are updating their knowledge, those who are teaching those courses. And how we handle it at Jindal is through a system of electives. So if you look at our courses, there are 500 plus elective courses are offered in one semester. And out of 500, 250 electives are offered by law professors, by law school faculty members. So there will be courses offered in AI, there will be courses offered in IP, in all these newer areas by the professors who are having expertise in that. And interested students are going to choose those electives and build upon that. So I think a robust elective system is another thing which is needed in our law schools. A lot of law colleges today simply follow the Bar Council of India system, and where those 30 courses which BCI prescribes, they teach, and students graduate with a degree. It's high time that we have to make legal education interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary by introducing a robust elective system, not just from law subjects, but also introducing diverse other areas. Lawyers need to study finance, need to study management, need to study history and sociology and political science and philosophy and logic. And that is possible only through the elective system. So I think the law schools like us, we are handling this newer areas, teaching of these newer areas in this way.
Amazing, sir. Thank you so much for that elaborate answer. And Meenakshi has mentioned in the chat that she understood your answer. Thank you so much. One of the questions we had also asked audience to send in their pre-registered questions. And one of the interesting questions that I see there from the pre-registered questions is, your advice for, a lot of lawyers who are becoming first generation lawyers who do not have any family member background in lawyers. What is your advice to them? I mean, if you are a first generation student, you are the first in your family to come and do law. And there have been some students who have also spoken to me over the years and said, "Sir, मेरी family में तो कभी कोई lawyer रहा नहीं, तो अभी हम जा रहे हैं. So will I have any problems in the field?"
So very, very good question, Ankur. I will like to tell you now 60 to 70% of students who are coming to law schools are first generation lawyers. Gone are the days till the year 2000, I will say, majority of students came from lawyers' family. So either their parents were in legal field, or their grandparents, or their even great-grandparents, sometimes relatives, a nana or mama, inspired by families. Now, 60 to 70% of students who are coming to law are first-generation people. A lot of, if you look at the way in the profession, the new senior advocates are getting designated. The new lawyers who are becoming partners in law firms. A lot of lawyers who are general counsels in big companies, or those who are building robust practices, majority of them coming from first generation. So this generation thing was relevant till the year 2000 or maybe up to 2010. Now it's almost irrelevant, whatever background you come from. And law is also not just limited to litigation, where a background helps, or whether you have a set of clients, or already you are having some dockets with you that is going to help you because your father or grandfather had that kind of practice. Now it's a completely different profession. The profession doesn't, I mean, certainly there is some advantage, there is certain benefit to those who are having lawyers in the family, but that in no way stops any first generation lawyer to succeed in the field. It doesn't, I mean, you'll find, I know a lot of lawyers now in Delhi High Court and the Supreme Court were all first generation, and then they rose to become additional solicitor generals and even designated senior advocates in the courts without any background. So it's the same thing I will say about the women in law. Earlier, it used to be that law is not a good profession for women. And I can tell you with my experience now, this year, 60% of the students who joined our law school were girl students. If you look at any of the judicial academy where judges are being trained, you simply go to Delhi Judicial Academy or maybe Chandigarh, Punjab and Haryana Judicial Academy. 50% of the officers being trained are lawyers, or maybe more than that. So in future, the entire judiciary, the challenge, we have not got even first woman chief justice in this country. I mean, we are expecting that in 2027 we are going to have the first woman chief justice in Justice B.V. Nagaratna was a convocation speaker in our law school few weeks back. But in the future is going to be led by women lawyers and women judges. In judiciary, I can see it very much visible. The way number of girls choosing to study law and the way they are competing and getting selected in the judicial exams and also getting in the firms and companies. And so law is now an absolutely gender neutral field. And it has become a very, very lucrative and good profession for women, unlike what it used to be in the past. So both these notions of having a family member in legal profession or having challenges being faced by first generation lawyers or women lawyers, these both are going to be, already these notions are broken, but they are going to be eliminated in this decade for sure. By 2030, I don't think there will be any such notion that if you have a family member in profession, you are going to excel. And I have seen lawyers who have very, very distinguished fathers and grandfathers, but they ended up becoming, poor lawyers or managers because managers of their own law firm sometimes, because they did not have those skills. Because it's a very, very competitive profession. The client won't pay. The client who paid the fee to your father or grandfather may not be ready to pay fee to you if you are not having that kind of competence and ability to get relief for him. So the profession and I will say the market forces also determine, and it's absolutely safe to be a first generation lawyer.
Thank you so much, sir. That is encouraging to hear. Another very interesting question that we have received in our audience pre-registered questions is, you mentioned about the quality of the law education in this country, where vast majority of our law schools are struggling with, providing quality education to our lawyers. And one of the students from a tier 2 law school has sent in his question and said, what should I do? I'm studying in a tier 2 college, but now I'm stuck here. I want to make a career. What is your advice to me? That is a question from a student who is in a tier 2 law school and now has understood that he doesn't have the quality of education that he wants.
Ankur, I believe we are in a different time now, because massive open courses, open coursewares are available from universities around the world. That is one thing which any student from any, so a lot of courses of Harvard Law School and Yale Law School and Columbia and Cornell are available online. Sometimes free, sometimes, you pay for it. And I think one need to be, if you are conscious of the fact that you are not studying in one of the top-notch institutions, then be ready to work that extra hard. And one thing which any student of law needs to do today is to study law always in a comparative and international way. You should not be limited to the domestic law. You should not be limited to the syllabus prescribed. You should not be limited to the case laws of your own Supreme Court and own country. Always be ready to do a comparative study of law. And that means on the same topic, if you are doing, say, right to equality in Indian Constitution, what about the same right in American Constitution and the related case laws, or Canadian Constitution and related case laws, or the constitutions of other countries? So if you do a comparative study of law, if you make that like an approach, it is going to help you a lot in the long run. You will be much evolved and also a more, I will say, learned in a way, vis-a-vis others who have only focused on the curriculum or syllabus or the domestic, what we call the Bare Act and the judgments of your own courts, the Indian Supreme Court, and that is what most of the law students study. So a comparative study of law is needed. The other thing I will say, you will find a lot of even judges in the Supreme Court who come from extremely humble law colleges. Some of the unknown law colleges, a law college in a remote village or a district in Andhra Pradesh, a remote district in Tamil Nadu, a remote district in Bihar, and they have, by their hard work and their commitment in the profession, they have rose to even the highest level, becoming a Supreme Court judge. So even if you come from, say, there is nothing like tier 2 or tier 3 or like that. I don't believe in that. And for a student, you always understand that you can learn something from your professor in the class. If you have that tendency to learn every day from every lecture, and also to further build upon that, even if you are studying at a comparatively smaller or lesser known law school, you can end up, so it's all hard work. Law is not like, say, nuclear physics or, something like an advanced branch of medicine and surgery, where you require a particular level of intelligence to crack those codes, and it's all hard work. So if you are ready to work hard, you will be better than those who are studying in the #1 law school but not working hard. So it's not that those who are studying in the top-notch law school, all of them are going to succeed.
Agreed. Absolutely. I think best piece of advice for any law student. I mean, if you are ready to work hard, I think you're said it right, Professor. It's not nuclear physics. I mean, you just have to put in the hard work every day. Read, write, research. I mean, and then present your argument. Be logical. I think absolutely wonderful advice, sir. Another thing that I want to ask is, I mean, on behalf of the career counselors who are here and who will watch this recording on YouTube, the general assumption for the mass audience, which is not really into law education, is that, pursuing a law, you can become two people. One is a lawyer or a judge. But law is much more than that. I mean, even the young students, when we go and talk to them in schools, if you ask them, they would have watched Harsh was quoting Suits. So Suits as a program has become very successful, and they feel all things lawyer do is wear a costly suit, go to courtroom, present a couple of arguments, and then that's it. It's a very, very luxurious life, and we don't have to work much. But having worked with you and seen Jindal Global Law School, I know the amount of efforts that are required to be put in before presenting your case to a judge. and the number of avenues that the lawyer, I mean, you mentioned in your initial remarks how law is going to impact each and every aspect of our lives. And we don't even assume that. We just think of law as lawyer and a judge. So if you can talk about career opportunities for law students and specializations, one of your posts that went viral recently was the BA Legal Studies program, where you wonderfully explained what is BA Legal Studies. You took us back to the connecting dots of how CBSE introduced legal studies as a subject in grade 11 and 12, and how JGLS became the first law school in the country to offer BA Legal Studies. I mean, nobody had even thought about it. I mean, amazing things are happening at JGLS. So if you can just elaborate our career counselors here
Yes.
on career options and the programs and specializations in law.
Wonderful, Ankur. I mean, great question. And if I look at legal careers today, they are certainly not limited to the law. A lot of law graduates are even coming out of the law and actually working in the field of entrepreneurship and technology and finance, and even setting up businesses, even getting into completely unrelated fields. At the same time, why a BA program, a 3-year BA program, which was started by us in 2020, today it has become a success. More than 200 students are studying this program this year, and another 500 have already, I mean, they are in, part of the previous years. 167 graduated this year, the first batch. The reason being, a study of law in older times, or from public, I will say the popular parlance, it was always limited to courtroom. And that's never the case with legal studies. And BA program actually gives you a good knowledge of law, but doesn't force you to become a courtroom lawyer or a judge. It gives you a good academic background, good skills in law, but then it opens the whole world for you. So some of our BA Legal Studies graduates decided to drop law and study management after that. So they are actually going to pursue MBA degrees in some institutions. Some of them actually decided to go abroad and explore other avenues, studying international relations or public policy or something. Even, I mean, one student I met was very curious about studying design. So after BA in law, she wanted to study a bachelor's in design in a US university. So wanted to combine law and design, but in no way she wanted to become a lawyer here in India. And that is why she dropped 3-year LLB. So I think the diversity in legal careers from, I mean, of course, the courtrooms will remain important place for lawyers to go. But the way the General Counsel's office is assuming importance in Indian companies, the way these legal counsels in corporates are have become an important force, which was not earlier. And even the way lawyers are needed in multiple organizations. You'll find even in NASA administration in the US, a lot of JD graduates, those who have studied law, but they are running the space agency in the United States. They are part of the administration of NASA. We can't imagine that in ISRO in India. You won't find lawyers in ISRO. It's only scientists. So those things are going to come in India as well. Today, from Reserve Bank of India to, say, I mean, from banking sector to even tech companies, to TCS and Wipro and Cognizant, all big tech companies, and Facebook and Google and Apple, our graduates are working in all these companies which I named. Graduates from Jindal Global Law School, I know them personally, who are working in Apple and I mean the company which owns Apple, and even there is one graduate who has studied in a Stanford Law School, is part of the legal team of Wikipedia, and in the United States is part of a small legal team which is handling all the legal issues relating to the Wiki Foundation, which runs Wikipedia and all. And he was actually exploring to hire some interns from JGLS who can work with him in San Francisco in his legal team. So the profession is evolving beyond anybody's imagination, and lawyers are being needed everywhere. So I think an LLB degree in future will not just remain the only thing needed to become a good legal professional. People with other qualifications in law and not even as destined to become an advocate or a judge, they are also going to be part of legal profession in big way. We'll find a lot of IP firms, the intellectual property firms, recruiting scientists and technology-based people to work in the law firms. So it's all multidisciplinary. And that is why the law schools also need to be multidisciplinary that way.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir, for again an elaborate answer. And you have said it right. 99% of these opportunities are missed by laymen like us. Who are just thinking about lawyer and a judge. But now with the opportunities arising from, as you mentioned, from Apple to NASA to maybe as the Indian economy grows and more and more multinational companies and more and more opportunities come into our country. Future is very bright for law students, and especially programs like BA Legal Studies, where you give the flexibility to students. Imagine students studying law and then design, and that is an opportunity today that is happening in real life in Jindal. So thank you so much. We have come to the last couple of minutes of this webinar. I didn't even watch my clock, but now that I see it, we are at 8:28, and we love to conclude on time. So are there any last questions or comments by anyone? We would love to have your take before we conclude. Harsh, you want to say something? You have been on camera since last 90 minutes listening in. So
no, it's Professor Mishra is speaking. I can listen for the entire day.
Thank you.
Just to add, it's been a great learning conversation this evening. Few comments which just in 2-3 minutes, if I can make with the prior permission of Professor Mishra.
Yeah, just a couple of minutes, huh? We are at 8:29.
60 seconds or 80.
Yeah.
So you asked the question, first generation. Yes, first generation people fearing that they want to do law. Point number one, where Professor Mishra said that the opportunities are growing. Yes, earlier it was that people only thought of becoming a lawyer or a judge. Now that it has increased, people are ready to join as JAG, Judge Advocate General. People are ready to become in-house counsel. People are ready to join banks, SEBI, RBI, etc., and all Professor Mishra mentioned. So that the idea of having that file in their office, which will help them to grow, has completely now shaken. The other question was with respect to the quality. The quality, the Professor Mishra has said, and it's well reported in the Equip report of JGU in 2019, which was published on page number 8, that some technology can come to the help, such as Swayam and etc. Universities Act, which is now in thought process, will again solve some of those problems. Mishra mentioned as a challenge was the mediocre law college. And Professor Mishra wrote years back, I have written this year on 31st January 2023. And it was about just as environmental impact assessment is there. If you look into Environment Protection Act 1986. So it looks into if some project has to be started, you have to look into the impact of that project. Nowadays, we see a lot of law schools getting started without even calculating legal education impact assessment. So I think that can be looked into the picture by Bar Council of India or the Government of India, that before giving some permission to a law school to start it, there should be an impact assessment into that picture. So I think these are some of the comments of which I wanted to make. So much, Professor Mishra, and it was such an insightful lecture, I will say so. And thank you, Ankitji, for providing us with the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Harsh, for that wonderful final comments on this webinar. I'm sure in the kind of discussion we had, and hearing Professor Mishra was an eye-opening. I'm not a law background student. I do not have much understanding of law as a profession, but these 90 minutes have given me definitely a better understanding of law as a career, as a program, as a profession than what I was probably 90 minutes back. Thank you, Professor Anand Prakash Mishra. It's such an honor on behalf of the
thank you,
Outreach
Ankur, for
Collective.
inviting me, and it's all your, I will say, initiative, which brought me and which will bring many more people in the future. And I wish
you so
all the
much.
very best for the TOC and
Thank you.
for every member of TOC and the great work you are doing.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of the Outreach Collective, on behalf of both the co-founders, me and Bhakti, I mean, we are grateful to you for taking time out and addressing the audience. This recording will be available on our YouTube channel. I'll share the link with you as well. And as I said in my initial remarks, our YouTube channels have now become like a podcast for admissions and outreach professionals. So I'm sure we'll have much more bigger audience reaching out to this webinar over the years. Thank you so much for making this possible, sir. And thank you so much for all of us in the TOC for making time out on this Independence Day evening. As Professor said, on a holiday evening, for you to take time out and be here for the last 90 minutes with us means a lot. And that is why we started TOC, because we understood that there is a deep hunger. And when Professor said, I mean, there was no platform that was encouraging collaboration within the admissions and outreach professional. This is what both me and Bhakti thought, that we need one platform to bring together stalwarts like Professor Mishra and others. And then for us and admissions and outreach professionals to come together and learn from them and network with each other and grow with each other. And that's the philosophy of the Outreach Collective. Let us all work together, collaborate together, and do what is best for our students. At the end of the day, we are all serving our students. And if we are able to make their life better through our collaboration, nothing like it. So thank you so much. A very good evening. Good night to everyone. Wish you a very happy Independence Day, and see you in our next series of webinars. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.